All right, well, hello everyone. I'm here with Isaac Mayhew, and we're going to be talking about his piece about nothing. We'll be releasing this one soon, but I wanted to talk first the title of the piece. What inspired that title?
Yeah, so it's kind of about nothing is a piece about uncertainty.
Hmm.
So there's kind of uh, the program notes for the piece are feeling confident slash certain slash sure about nothing, feeling
Hmm.
small. And so I wrote it when I was home on break from school in the winter of my last year at Lawrence University. Um, so I was about 6 months from graduation, had become a parent, by that point that I was not going to be in grad school. And so just kind of like figuring out what was up next was kind of a big question mark
Hmm.
for me. And so that I think is where, whatever was coming next was coming fast, but I didn't know what it was. And so I think that's kind of what the piece was originally about. That version of this piece was not written for the blank experiment. That was written for so their call for scores
Hmm.
that ended up not going anywhere. But then fast forward, 4 years or whatever, or 5 years maybe, whatever it was, to when I created this piece for this ensemble, this new version of the piece, I should say. It was like right at like the peak of the COVID pandemic. And so I feel like the world was experiencing just like some of the same emotions that I was when I created the first version of the piece. So like obviously on a much larger and more serious level, but so just kind of a piece about feeling really unstable and not knowing what the future holds.
And yet you keep going
Yeah,
somehow.
exactly.
Yeah, so this piece, when I was around for the rehearsals and recording, I noticed that you had some indeterminate aspects in the piece where, you just have, a start section repeat so many times, the next instrument comes in and it's a little bit more indeterminate. Why did you decide to use that type of notation?
Yeah, so the piece is sort of supposed to be my attempt at blending improvisation with more of a through composed
Mhm.
style. I'm a terrible improviser myself, but I really like you know an aspect of improvised music that I really enjoy is the kind of the authenticity of it, the like honesty of it. And so there's parts of the piece where like one instrument will decide the tempo with like just like they just have like a single beat, and then
Mhm.
everyone else picks the tempo up from that player. And um, I like the idea that much like the themes about life and about whatever, trying to answer the question of what comes next, like we just spoke about. Uh, the ensemble is just figuring out as they go along, and it could be different every time and should be different each time that it's performed.
Right, and it was written kind of in a way where we're not improvisers necessarily either, but it was written in a way where it was kind of easy to figure out, and they were just able to really go with the flow, blend together in a way that wouldn't have been the case if it was all scripted out note by note.
Yeah,
And it was different every time, and yet it was still the same, if that makes sense. So it was.
that's kind of what I was going for too. It's like so let's take. So I'm not going to write just jazz changes or something like that
Mhm.
because that's not who I am. But I can say like, okay, here are these elements: tempo, or dynamics, or you know, I'll give you the exact notes to play. I'll give you the order to play them in. I'll give you kind of the phrase structure, but you decide everything else. Um, and I think that was, that way I, as the composer, have my fingerprints on the listener's experience, and
Mhm.
I put those pieces in place. But then also the ensembles of, the players themselves um, are also, you know, writing something new for the audience to listen to.
Right, so they kind of become part of the creation
Yeah,
process.
yeah, yeah.
So I know that type of the more improvisational, write your own story kind of writing has been around for a while, and yet it's still not as common. So it's something, I'd love to see more of as a performer, because it's a cool way for us to just kind of be part of the process.
Yeah.
But a little terrifying too, because we're not used to coming up with stuff. We're used to just getting the music,
Yeah.
playing the notes on the page, and focusing on the authenticity of it. So it's a different experience as a performer, but I think it's something really cool to explore, especially when we have a living composer. We can run ideas by you and
Right.
actually get that feedback, as we're trying to figure out the best way to interpret something that is a little bit more open ended.
Yeah.
So awesome. So we'll be releasing this probably soon, within a few days of airing this interview. So I hope you enjoy it, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And thank you so much for joining me, Isaac.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.